Welcome to Sriram's IAS. Today's topic for discussion is One Nation, One Election. Why One Nation, One Election is in news? The second meeting of Joint Parliamentary Committee on amending bills of One Nation, One Election is scheduled to be held on January 31, 2025. Okay, so One Nation, One Election is in news because the second meeting of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on amending bills regarding One Nation, One Election is scheduled to be held on 31st January 2025. In the first meeting, there was a strong exchange of opinions between the opposition, by the opposition parties and the BJP MPs. Okay, so the cabinet, after the cabinet approved the ambitious One Nation, One plan, after approval on the basis of the recommendation of which committee? High level committee on simultaneous elections chaired by Dr. Ramnath Kovind, the ex-president of India. So, the cabinet approved the ambitious One Nation, One plan on the basis of recommendation of the high-level committee on simultaneous elections chaired by Dr. Ramnath Kovind. After that, it has referred the bill. That is, referred the bill to JPC, Joint Parliamentary Committee. That is, two bills, that is two amending bills were introduced regarding One Nation, One Elections were introduced in the Lok Sabha in the recent winter session. Okay, so what are the two bills? Constitution 129th Amendment Bill and Union Territories Laws Amendment Bill. Okay, so these two amending bills were introduced in the Lok Sabha in the recent winter session, and after being introduced regarding the proposed legislation, okay, One Nation, One Election, and it has been referred to Joint Parliamentary Committee. Okay, so what is One Nation, One Election? Simultaneous elections popularly referred as One Nation, One Election. Okay, simultaneous elections is popularly referred as One Nation, One Election. So what does One Nation, One Election means? One Nation, One Election means holding elections to House of the People, that is Lok Sabha, plus all the state legislative assemblies, including the union territories having legislative assemblies, that is Delhi, Pondicherry and Jammu and Kashmir. So all state legislative assemblies also includes union territories having legislative assemblies, that is Delhi, Pondicherry and Jammu and Kashmir, plus local bodies that is panchayats and municipalities. Okay, so one nation, one elections means that is simultaneous elections is popularly known as one nation, one elections. It includes or it means holding elections to House of the People, that is Lok Sabha, and state legislative assemblies. All the state legislative assemblies, including union territories having legislative assemblies, that is Delhi's, Pondicherry and Jammu and Kashmir, and local bodies, that is panchayats and municipalities together. Okay, so one nation simultaneous election does not mean conducting or does not mean voting throughout the country for all elections on a single day. Okay, so it does not, simultaneous election does not mean voting throughout the country for all elections on a single day. All elections means House of the People, Lok Sabha, that is Lok Sabha, all the state legislative assemblies, including the legislative union territories having legislative assemblies, that is Delhi, Pondicherry and Jammu and Kashmir, and local bodies, that is panchayats and municipalities. So voting is not on a single day throughout the country. So now having understood, so what the initiative, so this initiative of one nation, one election is held in two phases. Phase 1, Lok Sabha plus state legislative assemblies. Elections are held together. Phase 2, local bodies, panchayats and municipalities within 100 days of the general elections. Okay, so the initiative is proposed to be conducted in two phases, that is first phase Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies, the elections are held together. Phase 2, local bodies, elections to the local bodies throughout the country, that is panchayats and municipalities within 100 days of general election. Now, what is the constitutional history or historical evolution of one nation, one election? Okay, so pre-independence era, the one nation, one election, the concept can be traced or rooted to the British electoral system under the Government of India Act 1935. Government of India Act 1935. So the concept of one nation, one election is rooted or traced to the British electoral system under the Government of India Act 1935. Though it was fragmented, but the election was aligned for all the legislative bodies under British rule. Now post-independence era, that is 1952 to 1967. Simultaneous elections were held from 1952 to 1967. That is the first general election, 1952. The journey of Indian democracy started with the synchronization of elections in the first general election, synchronization of the elections to Lok Sabha and state assemblies from the first general election, that is 1952. And it continued, simultaneous elections continued in the years 1957, 1962 and 1967. Okay, but this was discontinued, the practice was discontinued in 1968-69 because of the premature dissolution of the state assemblies, some of the state assemblies. Okay, Haryana, Kerala. Okay, so the practice of simultaneous elections thus was started with the first general elections from 1952 and continued in 1957, 1962 and 1967, was discontinued in 1968-1969 because of the premature dissolution of some of the state assemblies like Haryana and Kerala. And also in 1970, the Lok Sabha was dissolved before its completion of its term. Okay, so there was discontinuation. Now, what about the committees? What about the committees that recommended the One Nation, One Election scheme? In 1999, Law Commission of India, in his 170th report, has recommended simultaneous elections. In 2002, National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution also recommended. In 2015, Parliamentary Standing Committee report also recommended simultaneous election. And in 2017, the working paper of Niti Aayog, also recommended simultaneous elections. So these were the committees that recommended simultaneous elections. Okay. So what are the acts that have to be amended? The One Nation, One Election scheme or initiative cannot be continued with the present constitutional framework. So amendments should be carried out. So what are the acts that should be amended? 83, 85, Article 83 and 85, Article 172 and 175. Okay, Article 83 and 85 relating to the Parliament, Article 172 and 175 relating to the state legislature. Okay, so these are relating to the dissolution or duration, sessions, prorogation, and dissolution. Okay, so the acts that have to be amended in order to implement the One Nation, One Election scheme is Article 82 and 85 relating to the Parliament, Article 172, 175 relating to the state legislature. That is the provisions relating to the duration of the term of the houses, sessions, prorogation and dissolution. What is the need for One Nation, One Election scheme? Streamlining governance and reducing policy paralysis. Frequent elections forces the government to be in perpetual campaign mode, delaying the long-term decision making. And also, the implementation of the Model Code of Conduct stalls the developmental projects. Electoral costs. The expenditure of the government and political parties on election is reduced and small political parties have a better chance. Voter engagement and turnout. Frequent elections causes voter fatigue, whereas simultaneous elections fosters voter engagement and turnout. Identity politics. The frequent elections or simultaneous elections reduces the identity politics like caste and class, whereas frequent elections increases the identity politics. Burden on courts. Simultaneous elections reduces the burden of the courts by reducing the electoral disputes because the elections are conducted simultaneously. Security forces. Efficient use of security forces. Now, what are the challenges? Challenges of One Nation, One Election scheme, that is simultaneous elections. Regional issues. Okay, the national issues dominate in the simultaneous elections, sidelining the regional issues or overshadowing the regional issues. Regional parties. It may be simultaneous elections are advantageous to the national parties, putting the regional parties at a disadvantage or undermining their influence. Political accountability. Frequent elections foster political accountability on the lawmakers by exposing them to the public scrutiny. Federalism concerns. The acts, the one nation, one election scheme or plan cannot be implemented with the present constitutional framework. So, acts have to be amended. So, the acts are amended without ratification of the states, undermining the role of the state legislature. Also, it is sidelining or it is threat to the federal structure. Okay. So, like Article 172. Without ratification of the states, undermining the role of state legislature and also federal structure, posing a threat to the federal structure. Logistical challenges, that is, you need substantial resources and in the form of vast number of EVMs and trained personnel. So, this is about the one nation, one election scheme.